I'm Lauren with Pack Hacker, and in this video we're taking a detailed look at the Osprey Transporter Wheeled Carry-On 38, which I've been testing for the last 2 weeks. Let's dive in. We've made a couple updates to this bag for the 2025 version, which is what we have here, specifically the material. So this here is their 630D recycled high tenacity nylon, and it has a ripstop pattern there, and it's coated with like a carbonate coating. There's also DWR coating on the inside lining, and that's a 210D nylon. And then we have the bottom here, which is a 840D recycled. This one here is a 840D recycled high tenacity nylon as well. So overall, it's very sturdy on the outside. It feels very durable. The previous version was like really slick and shiny. We actually had somebody comment and say that they had an issue with it like flaking over time. This one here does not feel like it's going to do that at all. It definitely feels like it can withstand, like if you were to check this bag, like if you had to check it at the gate or you just decided to check it in general, it could withstand that. It feels very well constructed as well. For outside features, it's pretty basic. We just have like attachment points down here. Says Transporter and Osprey up at the top. I think it's pretty subtle. I think aesthetically it just looks a little bit better than the previous version did. There's also a luggage tag on the side now here. So if you want to slide your information in there, you can. And then also we have the handles. So we have grab handles on the side, and then we have another one on the top here. There's no grab handle on this side of it, but between those two handles, and then there's also like one down on the like chassis here, that's more than enough for me to be able to move this thing around. I really like this one down here too. The way that it's like curved up means it's probably not going to be super gross when you grab it. It could be, just depending on what kind of like terrain you're rolling over, I guess. But it's pretty comfortable to move. Overall, it is pretty lightweight as well, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think what this thing does really well is its very sturdy, durable design. We also have on the back here, this is that chassis I was talking about. It's called their high road chassis. It has like extra clearance. Essentially, it's just because of the way that it's curved on like this bottom here. If I flip it to the side, you can see that it curves in, and that allows you to roll over like if you have like rocks or something, if you're rolling over like cobblestone, that type of a thing is gonna be where that comes in handy. We also have, let me flip this back over. We have really oversized wheels as well. So with this, like between the chassis and the wheels, they feel very, very, like you can see that they are, can be removed or replaced or whatever pretty easily, but they do feel really sturdy and durable. So this is gonna be the type of bag that's gonna come in handy if you do a lot more like rugged traveling. I think the materials that they use on the outside of this kind of match that a little bit more now, but specifically with the wheels and this chassis, and even these like bumper stoppers here, you can see so that when you lay the bag down, it lays down flat. But it just feels pretty sturdy. I haven't had any issues with it over the last like 2 weeks developing any scratches or anything. You can see it's like a little bit scuffed up on the back. Actually, you can't really see it super well in this light, but there are a few scuffs on the back here. The last thing we have is this telescoping handle. So with this, there's not like a classic button design. Instead, you actually just squeeze that entire grippy handle part in order to get it to engage. It's just one single height that it locks into, and then when you want to push it down, you squeeze again and you push it down. I did notice that it felt kind of stuck sometimes, like it would stick around this area, to the point where sometimes I was like, is there a second height adjustment? But it never caught into a second height adjustment. So for the sake of my experience, it really was just the singular height adjustment. But I did like that squeeze handle. I think it was kind of an innovative, a new like handle design. We haven't seen anything like this before. It took a little bit of getting used to, because you really do need to like put some like grip strength into it. So if you have issues with grip strength, that could be a problem. But otherwise, it functioned pretty well. When it comes to actually engaging the handle, if it was right next to me, I just lean down, pinch that a little bit, and then pull it up. This is where, like right here is where I felt like it got stuck the most. If I was pulling it up and down. Like it kind of, you know, you have to really like make sure you're squeezing the handle the entire time you're lifting it up. Otherwise, once you get it into place, this is what it looks like. I'm 5'6", and it's very comfortable to drag behind me. Because it is one that you will always pull behind you because it's only 2 wheels, I didn't feel like I needed more height adjustment on the handle. Maybe if you wanted to like stand and lean against it, it'd be more comfortable if you could adjust that. But for this use case, I thought it worked perfectly fine. I also liked with that chassis, I think it's more of like a byproduct of the design, but it made it easier to carry next to me. Because you know, sometimes when you're carrying luggage, it like hits you and it's just kind of like butting out against your leg, and it's like kind of kicking out at an angle when you walk. In this case, when I was carrying it next to me or up a flight of stairs or something, that curve kind of butted in right against my leg, and it made it a little bit more comfortable to carry, which again is more of a byproduct of the design, but I thought it was nice. If you're finding this video helpful, hit subscribe so we can keep making content to help you travel smarter. In terms of external compartments or secondary compartments that we have here, it's just this front and then the top. So we're gonna look at the top first. This is a nice wide pocket up here that opens, and you can see there's a good amount of space in here. I'll show you what it looks like when it's actually empty on the inside, but right now this bag is full of gear and I can fit in here my phone and my headphones, and I have some room to spare, but the more stuff that you put in here, there's a lot of extra material that just kind of like floats around, and I found that if I put a bunch of tiny items in here, they could get kind of like lost in the folds of that fabric. And it's more of a nitpicky thing than anything, I think, because it is a really nice and wide pocket. So if you wanted to really stuff it full, you could, especially if the main compartment isn't as full. It kind of like, as you fill up the main compartment, it cuts into that space, but if the main compartment's not as full, you can always manipulate it so that you have more packable space in there. It is big enough where if you wanted to put like a toiletry bag or something in there to get you through TSA, you totally could. It's super accessible. The material as well, really quick, is also like a soft felty kind of material. Maybe not quite felt, maybe it is just more of like a close knit. It feels very soft to where like I would think it would be felt, but it's not quite. But it is nice and soft, so if you put any sensitive items in there like a phone, it's not gonna scratch it up. We also have this front pocket. So this here, and I know I keep talking about the previous version a bunch, but it was very angled and I had a hard time like storing items in here without them just like falling out. In this case, when I'm packing up the bag flat down on a table or something like this, it's easy enough to pack without things like slipping and sliding around. In here though is mostly where I put like tech items. So it fits up to a 16-inch laptop. You can see that there's a decent amount of room to spare there. I have a 13-inch, so it saves me even more space. This doesn't have a false bottom or anything, but technically because this pocket is higher than the base of the bag, it kind of acts as a false bottom anyway. If you do check this bag, it will be, obviously your laptop will be at the front, like at the top of the bag. It'll be closer to the outside of the bag than if it were like tucked on the inside. However, there's a good amount of padding in this sleeve right here. And with the padding of the items that I have in here, I would feel comfortable checking this if you do have to check your bag. With this zippered pocket, this is largely where I put tech items if I didn't want to carry a tech pouch, but you could put other items in there too if you want. There is also a spot for a smart tracker here, and then also a key leash. So if you wanted to just set your keys aside while you're traveling, and then you know where they are when you get home and you need to get back into your place. There's also these little, like, they're not mesh pockets, they're just like little slip pockets with elastic where you could put small items. I didn't use them really. I'm more of a pouch person than using like admin style pockets, but if you wanted to, you could always stick your tech in there instead. This elastic is just not super tight, so theoretically your items could slip out of here a little bit easier. But if you're also accessing this pocket mostly while the bag's standing up, that might not be that big of a deal. There's a little bit of room down here, like on top of all of these pockets, but this is, once the main compartment's pretty packed out, this gets really shallow. There's not a ton of extra packable space in here, I found, so I didn't really have room for like an extra layer or something like that, but depending on how you configure everything, you might be able to fit something in there. I thought it would have been nice maybe to have a little extra room, because if you like get cold on the plane but you don't want to have to carry it around all the time, you'd be able to shove it in here. I just didn't really find a ton of extra room unless you have something like really, really thin. And now heading into the main compartment. So we have lockable YKK zippers throughout with this, at least in the external pocket. So this front laptop compartment / front compartment, and then the main compartment zippers as well. And these zipper pulls are like just like a little kind of paracord material and then just plastic ends here. They give a decent amount of grip, so that's very nice. And then when it comes time to open this thing, you just open it and it's a, oh, I guess I'll just keep it that way. It is like a full like clamshell situation. So I'm gonna look at the lid section first here. We have 2 zippered pockets on the front, and usually what I end up, or on this like lid side, this is usually where I end up putting like socks and underwear and like hats and accessories and things like that. And that really works well for me here. You can see when I open this pocket up here, it has some of its own depth. Obviously, as you pack out the compartment underneath, you're gonna lose that depth. But I found that whatever I split between these two, like either the pockets on the front and whatever was inside, I always had a decent enough space to fit like all of the socks and underwear that I would need for my trip. So what I usually do is I'll put like clean on one side, and then if I don't have the other side full, I'll put, as things are dirty, I'll just like move them up and I'll keep them separated that way. So both of these are like the same size. They're a decent amount of packing space. You have a little bit of extra space on the upper side of the zipper as well if you need. And then in this side of the compartment, it's just an empty bucket space. So I find these spaces a little bit harder to overload when it's this type of a design because it kind of pulls down. Like you can see that here, it's like because the zipper's up here, gravity is just gonna pull this lid down. So whatever you pack in here isn't gonna like be able to pack right up into this corner and stay there until you actually zip it up. But what I did put in here was pouches. So in here I have a tech kit. I don't have a toiletry kit in here right now, but usually this is where I would put my toiletry kit. I have 2 additional packing cubes just kind of as a marker of what can fit in there. And then I also have a packable jacket, and there was some room to spare. There's also a decent amount of padding right here on this side. So whatever's in here is not going to bump up against the laptop in this front compartment. So that's giving me additional comfort if I had to check the bag or something like that. There is a decent amount of depth. You have more depth on the side closest to the zipper where it opens versus on this side here. But I was able to fit like a pair of shoes in here on this side, or like sandals or something like that, if I wanted to zip them away. Sometimes I'll do that instead of like putting them in a pouch. So that's an option. But I found that pretty easy to pack, pretty standard in terms of like comparative to just like another travel backpack or really any other luggage that has a zippered compartment. With this side here, you can fit more clothing. Since it is a fully zippered mesh compartment, you can put whatever in here and not utilize packing cubes, or you can utilize packing cubes, kind of up to you. In here though, it does have tied on straps so that you don't have to worry about everything flipping around. And then in terms of what it actually fits, I've got a hoodie, I've got a pair of jeans, I have a pair of sweatpants and a thinner pair of pants. I have another pair of work pants, so that is what, 1, 2, 3 pairs of outdoor, like external pants you would wear around, pair of sweatpants and a hoodie, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tops. Plus there was room for more clothing, honestly, if I wanted to shove it in there. So I can easily pack for a week in this. I could probably even pack for 2 weeks if I pack a little bit smarter with my clothing. And then for shoes, this is a men's size 10.5. I like it because the chassis down at the bottom kind of creates like a solid base. So anything you put down here, like it doesn't feel like it's gonna kind of mold the bag in a weird way, I guess. But I do feel like I had a decent amount of room. This is what I was talking about with that top compartment, this being just kind of shoved up against the top. If this is open and you fill it out with all of your gear, or I guess I didn't need to open it for that. But if it's filled out with all of your gear, it's gonna like drop down as far as like this. So you can fit a decent amount of stuff in here. But overall, there's really not a ton going on actually on the inside. You've got a little slip pocket here for like an ID or something like that, additional identification, or maybe you have a smart tracker that's that size instead, like a credit card size one. But I was able to fit, like I mentioned, a good amount of gear in here. Between all of these zippered compartments. And then overall, it's a 5.94 pound bag, which is upwards of a pound or more lighter than a lot of other soft-sided luggage, and additionally hard-sided luggage. So if weight is a huge concern of yours, this is pretty light. You're also not, like, you can't really even see the telescoping handle here, like it's not really impeding on the packability of this thing. So overall, it feels like a really well-made bag if you want something that's just like durable and sturdy and gets all your gear where you need to go, but isn't necessarily like the most stylish out of the bunch. So there you have it, the Osprey Transporter Wheeled Carry-On 38. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.